Were you worried about him during that siege? Were you worried about his safety?
No, I thought he was well protected, and I had heard that he was in good shape. No, because I had heard he was in very good shape. But no.
You heard those chants. That was terrible. I mean, those,
he could have. Well, the people were very angry.
They're saying, "Hang Mike Pence."
Because it's common sense, John. It's common sense that you're supposed to protect. How can you, if you know a vote is fraudulent, right? Yeah. How can you pass on a fraudulent vote to Congress?
With us now, CNN legal analyst, retired Ambassador Norm Eisen. He was the House Judiciary Special Counsel in former President Trump's first impeachment trial. He was previously a White House ethics czar as well. This is former President Trump defending these calls to hang former Vice President Mike Pence. What do you make of this?
Brianna, he says it's common sense to chant, hang the Vice President of the United States. It's more disturbing evidence of former President Trump's state of mind that brought about the insurrection on January 6th. And it goes to why the litigation and the effort to subpoena individuals and the Mark Meadows case that is percolating up in the January 6th committee is so important. Not only did we have the terrible events and the long run-up of Donald Trump's incitement of those events on January 6th, he's still doing it. The big lie continues. As you heard, he's totally unrepentant. That's why we have to get at the truth of what happened on that terrible day.
He, as he's talking about the vice president, makes it clear that he was getting updates about the vice president. So he was getting updates about what was happening on the Hill in real time. Is that problematic for him?
Well, it's part of the reason. We said in Watergate, what did the president know and when did he know it? The mantra of the Trump era and the January 6th committee investigation is, what did the president do and when did he do it? And when didn't he do it, Brianna? How could he? Look at another false statement he says, oh, Mike Pence was fine. No, we know the rioters, the insurrectionists, chanting hang Mike Pence came very close to him. We've seen that chilling footage in the second impeachment of Donald Trump. We know the danger in which others were placed. And you still hear from Donald Trump a complete disregard. He continues to be a danger to this country, and that's why the January 6th committee is right to be moving with great urgency. We've got to get to the bottom of this.
The courts are now moving with great urgency. At least one is the Federal Court of Appeals here. They put an administrative stay on these documents from the federal archives that we would think would illuminate the actions and the thoughts of former President Trump on January 6th. They put an administrative stay on that, but they're actually going to act pretty quickly, having a hearing by the end of the month. I know this is what you were calling for.
Yes, I wrote yesterday in CNN Opinion that these questions are too important for delay, the kind of delays that we encountered in our court cases in the first impeachment. So I was very gratified. We thought there would be a short administrative stay. I was very gratified to see that the D.C. Circuit will have fully briefed and heard oral argument before the end of November on these 700-plus documents that will shed additional light. There's a reason, Brianna, that Donald Trump is fighting so hard to keep these documents out of the public view.
Worth noting, all of the judges here are Democratic appointments.
Well, we don't look, as we evaluate judges, at Democratic or Republican. We really don't, Brianna. If you see how the courts responded to Donald Trump's incitement of insurrection in 2020 with his 60-plus bogus cases, the judges he appointed and other Republican judges were heroes. These, however, are good judges. They are 3 stars of the D.C. Circuit. Judge Jackson, who was the judge in our Don McGahn case, also a subpoena fight with the White House, gave a favorable ruling there. Judge Millett and Judge Wilkins. Wonderful panel. They will not tolerate these crazy Trump arguments. They're a variation on his big lie, Brianna. He argues that he still has presidential powers. It's the same as refusing to admit that he lost the election. He's now dressing that up in legal garb. So they're going to see right through that, and I think they're going to reject his arguments very briskly.
All right, we'll be watching, and soon. We'll be watching soon. Norm Eisen, thank you.
Thanks, Brianna.
Both the prosecution and defense have rested their cases in the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, with closing arguments set to begin on Monday. Over the course of the proceedings, there have been several tense moments between Judge Bruce Schroeder and the lead